Hey guys, Protoman945 here. Welcome back to another video. So this video is not going to be the video I said. The music video is going to be Friday night. And, welcome to the first episode in a new series called Final Reckoning. Now, I explained this kind of at the end of the last video, which was the Falcon Winter Soldier review. But basically the way this series is going to work is I'm going to rewatch, and yes, voluntarily rewatch movies that I have said in the past that I hate or really, really don't like. Or that I think are stupid, or only watched once and had such a bad experience with I never wanted to watch it again. And I'm going to give kind of a final conclusive thought on these movies, like about what I thought about them after I watched them. Have my opinions changed, or have they stayed exactly the same? We got a good one for this first one, and that is Iron Man 2. So for anyone who has seen my top 10 worst films list, people know that I pretty much hate this film. I think it's way too overcrowded, has not good action, terrible villains, and just is a complete mess. However, I just finished watching it today, and some of my opinions have changed. Overall, my opinion still is that it is a bad movie, and it is one of the worst in the MCU still. But the reason for that is not because it's so much worse than every other Marvel movie. The reason for that is because, at best it could be described as a movie that was not great. And to be honest, if Marvel's worst movie is only one that can be considered not great, then that's still a very, very good standard, I feel like. But yeah, this movie, it is not horrible, but it is a bad movie. It is not good. Still, I still hold that opinion, but it is no longer one of the worst movies of all time to me. It is not that bad, per se. So my primary issue that I have with the movie still stands. I still think there are way too many plot lines within this movie, because they're trying to set up the Avengers, by introducing Black Widow and elaborating more on the Avengers Initiative. And then there's the plot line where the military wants Tony's suits, and then there's the Ivan Vanko line, ex Justin Hammer making drones. And then there's Tony's arc where he invents a new element and all that stuff with the reactor and whatnot. So that's maybe 4 different plot lines in the same movie. And instead of kind of going like this, which imagine this is perfectly meshing movie plot lines, instead it looks more like this. Kind of like that. And I feel like it is a complete mess of plot lines that doesn't focus enough on one particular plot line above the other. Now, it would be bold for a movie to have 4 different plot lines, and a movie would be really good if it managed to do that correctly. Because there is some good stuff in here. I really liked the plot line about Tony dying. I thought that was really interesting. And upon rewatching, Ivan Vanko is not the worst villain of all time. But when you're rating MCU villains, he's definitely near the bottom half, bottom third or whatever. Like, he's not a great villain. There are certainly much better ones that have been established within the MCU. Like, I think that's abnormally clear. I honestly also think the military trying to steal Tony's suit storyline is stupid. Like, I think that whole plot line is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know why they would want them other than a power grab thing. I really didn't see the point of having that particular plot line within the movie. So, this one opinion of this movie of mine has still not changed at all, and that is that Justin Hammer is one of the worst characters in the entire MCU. Period. It's like his character is like if you added a comic relief to a movie that was like not funny whatsoever. Like literally the unfunniest character in the whole movie, and he's supposed to be the comic relief, is what Justin Hammer feels like in this movie. Just utterly pointless. So, yeah, that is honestly my main gripe with this movie, is it just has way too much stuff going on at the exact same time. And so, like I demonstrated earlier, instead of like this, it looks like this. Kind of like that. So, that is honestly my main, and was my main issue, and still is my main issue with the movie, is that there's just way too many plot lines and way too many things going on for a cohesive story to be present, which also means that this movie has terrible pacing. Like, it goes all over the place from just talking to a random action sequence. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And that's another original gripe I did have with the movie, is there's too little action. Like, the action scenes that they give are cool, but there's maybe 3 major action scenes in the whole movie that I can really think of. There is the race car scene, the Battle of the Suits at Iron Man's birthday party between like Iron Man and Rhodey, and then there's the final battle with Iron Man and Rhodey versus Vanko, and like all the destruction that happens because of that. And to my knowledge, there isn't anything else action-wise. There isn't any other action sequences in the film. And I really feel like there could have been a lot more action, especially considering this is a Marvel movie. Like, there are way more action scenes in Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 3. So, like, I just don't understand what this lack of action was, but it is another gripe that I have with the film. I want to see more action in a Marvel movie. Like, really. It's a little disappointing for a Marvel movie to have only 3 major action scenes. I just think that's a little disappointing. And then, elaborating more on that Iron Man birthday party scene. I get why it was there, because obviously it establishes the action sequence and like how Rhodey wants to bring the suit to the military and wants to stop Tony and all that stuff. However, I think that they could have done that whole sequence without having Tony's birthday party, Because during that entire scene, before the dialogue to the action sequence, I think all that stuff is cool. But everything before that is some of the dumbest moments in this whole movie. Because it's nothing but Tony being drunk and dancing around in his suit and making pee jokes. That is literally all it is during that scene, and it is so incredibly stupid, and I don't understand. Like, I think they could have easily filmed that action sequence without any of that in the movie. Like, they probably could have cut the whole bit with Tony's birthday party just out of the movie. Just completely. Speaking of Rhodey, I think it's interesting how they introduce him more in this movie in particular. And this is one praise I do give to this movie over the original Iron Man. Like, I forget his name, it was Terrence something, but the original Rhodey, he sucks. Like, I feel like, and I know, and I understand it was like a one-time thing when they were first making Iron Man, but like, my thing is, come on. If you're, like, Don Cheadle is just an infinitely better actor and is so much better at playing Rhodey in both action sequences and just as a general character than the guy who played him in Iron Man 1 was. And when I first saw this movie, I remember I was legitimately confused, like, wait, what happened to the Rhodey? Did he, like, get older or something? I was so confused by it. And thinking back on the original Iron Man, the actor that played Rhodey is just not very good. Like, Don Cheadle is just a way better actor and an amazing, like, a much, much better casting choice. Which is one praise I can easily give this movie. No qualms about it. I do think that of all the plot lines in this movie, it definitely spends the most on time in the movie on the plot line about Tony, like, figuring out a way to fix his arc reactor so he doesn't die, like, so he doesn't kill himself off of blood toxicity. And I think that's really interesting. As I said before, I think it's definitely the most interesting plot line in the movie. A few other little things. I wish there was more Nick Fury and Coulson in the movie. I mean, especially Coulson. I feel like he was just a shoe-in character. I'm not really a huge fan of that part of it. And I wish there was more Nick Fury in the movie. Like, he's maybe in 5% of the whole movie, and I wish we could have seen him in more of the movie. So my final concluding thoughts are, Justin Hammer is still one of the worst characters in the MCU. That opinion has not changed whatsoever. Ivan Vanko is not a great villain, but no longer one I would call the worst in the entire MCU. Just definitely not nearly one of the better ones. I still believe this movie has too many plot lines, and I think that they all overlap with each other, like, in not good ways. However, I do think the most interesting one is the one that they spend the most time on, which is the plot line involving Tony creating a new arc reactor. And I still think it is very disappointing, even for a Marvel movie, to only have basically really 3 major action scenes in the whole film. Overall, Still a Marvel movie I would not call a good movie, and definitely one I would probably say is still a bad movie. And the only reason I would call it one of the worst still in the MCU is because of Marvel's just amazing standard of writing and producing amazing movies. But and for sure, definitely not in the list of my worst movies of all time. Uh, Thank you for watching episode 1 of The Final Reckoning. Bye, guys.